This episode is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. It's a special thing to be a member of Navy Federal because they are a member-owned, not-for-profit credit union that invests in its members with amazing rates and low fees. That's why members could earn and save more every year. Plus, they serve all branches of the armed forces, veterans, and their families. So if you're interested in becoming a member, learn more at NavyFederal.org. At Navy Federal Credit Union, our members are the mission. Insured by NCUA.
Shopping for humans is hard. Shopping for your dog is easy thanks to Bark. Every month, we deliver toys and treats just for your dog. Whether it's fun plush or tough toys for heavy chewers, we spoil all the dogs. Subscribe now and get a free upgrade at barkbox.com/iHeart.
Episode 338, Frugal Side Hustles, Self-Publishing with M.K. Williams.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends Podcast, where you'll learn to save money, embrace simplicity, and live a richer life. Here are your hosts, Jen and Jill.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends Podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Jill.
And today we have the next in our Frugal Side Hustle series. Every other month, we highlight a side hustle that is low cost to start, but actually does have the opportunity to elevate into a full-time income if you want it to be, or it can just make you side hustle part-time money. So a lot of these are not going to be quick money. They're if you want to make money tomorrow or this weekend. This series isn't for that, but this is something if you spend 3 to 6 months, you're going to start to see a return on your investment. Those are the parameters for the series, and self-publishing is definitely something that if you do the right things, can definitely become something where you make great side money or even full-time money.
I'm hearing so much more about self-publishing and writing books or even digital products. We don't talk about that as much in this episode, but I think a really helpful even vision to create if you do have this as a hobby or a passion project. This is that extra oomph you might need to consider doing it to its fullest extent and actually seeing what kind of influx of money you could make off of this in the long term. But first, this episode is brought to you by INDEPENDENT. Do you know what that means? Could mean you have your own house, your own car, 2 jobs, working hard. Or it could mean you're not heavily influenced or controlled by others, but able to think freely and be confident in yourself. And speaking of thinking freely and being confident in yourself, it does require community too. We're not entirely independent. We're interdependent in its most healthy version. Our listener special, it's coming up October 31st. Yes, Halloween. And we want you to share your spooky, strange, bizarre money stories with us. Did you find money in a weird place? Did you have to pay a fee with a weird name? What's the weirdest pumpkin spice thing you've ever seen for sale? Everything's pumpkin spice. Oh my.
Everything.
Has anything having to do with money ever happened to you that you now look back on and laugh? That's really what we're looking for. So make us laugh. Think independently on this one. You know we like loosey-goosey stuff. And submit it for our listener special with the best spooky season money story. Will win one of our Frugal Friends t-shirts. So use the Bill of the Week line, frugalfriendspodcast.com/bill today through September 19th. This is 2023.
Sorry, no. Today is September 19th.
Sorry, today, September 19th through September 28th. So you've got that 10-day, almost 10-day window, 9-day window to leave your spooky story. We can't wait to hear them. The best one's going to get a t-shirt. A lot of them will be featured on the podcast listener special episode. This is exciting. Do it through the Bill of the Week line. And based on how spooky the stories are, we'll definitely know that it's not your Bill of the Week. But if there's any confusion, we'll just run it as the Bill of the Week too, and that's fun.
Here's the thing, we'll also see the length of it. And so bills of the week are typically short, and we figured that these ones will be longer. So it'll be fine. But yeah, we're very excited. We do a listener special every year where you guys call in, record, and this is meant to make you laugh. Something that you can listen to while you are trick-or-treating with children. Maybe yours, maybe somebody else's. Get candy, get laughs. frugalfriendspodcast.com/bill.
Be spooked out by money.
Yes. But seriously, what is the weirdest pumpkin spice thing you've ever seen for sale? I can't even think of it right now. But I'm sure sometime in the next 7 days, you are going to see it on Instagram now that we've said it. Anyways, this episode is for writers. Self-publishing, obviously, writing books, both fiction and nonfiction. So both fiction, so fantasy, horror, fun stories, and nonfiction. So the things that we write, money, self-help, fitness, wellness, whatever. Both of them are in this episode. The 2 caveats we will make. So if you are somebody who wants to write, loves to write, but after this episode, you're like, ooh, I do not want to project manage, then hit up episode 257, which is our Frugal Side Hustle episode on freelance writing with Miranda Marquardt. That's going to be for you. If you are someone who has an audience, maybe you have a small side business and you're just looking for ways to maybe elevate that, you can try self-publishing. But if it seems like a little too much work for what you have time for in your business, it's already kind of taken off, hit up episode 242. That's our Frugal Side Hustle series on digital products with Ellie Diop. That might be more for you. But this one, digital products and self-publishing, can definitely play together very well. So those are some good ones to queue up after this. This was such a fun episode. MK is such a good friend and always have wanted to get her on the show. But for a while, we were never doing things like this. And once we saw the Frugal Side Hustle series, saw how popular it was, I got a chance to text her and be like, I need you. I need you on the show.
We always needed you, and now it's on the show.
Right. This is so true. I always needed you in my life, and now I need you on my show. So MK Williams, in addition to being a very great friend, she is a full-time self-published author. She is the creator of Author Your Ambition. So the series of videos, books, and courses that help authors self-publish. She is also working with an agent for a traditionally published book deal. So she has, and after we finished our interview with her, she was giving us tips for traditionally published book deals too. So wherever you are on the spectrum of wanting to write a book, MK is the go-to. She's got over 12,000 subscribers on YouTube. People love her, and we are so honored to have her on Frugal Friends.
Let's do it.
MK, welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. We are so excited to finally get you here. I feel like you've been around since the beginning, and that's so rare and so fun. And now you're here.
Yeah. I'm actually talking with the Frugal Friends, not just listening and pausing and responding back and then resuming the podcast and then texting you and hey, I just said this. Ha ha ha. We actually talk in real time, so it's exciting.
Yeah. Oh, man. So I am very excited to have this conversation as someone who is self-published, and you have self-published. We have similar, you've done fiction and nonfiction. I have only done nonfiction, so I only have a little bit of experience to speak from, but still very excited to talk about this topic. So let's start out. What do we mean when we say self-publishing, and who should consider this for a side hustle? Because it's probably not for everyone. So what is it, and who might be best fit for it?
Okay, yeah, that's a great starting question. So self-publishing is when you, the individual, say, I am going to write and publish this book, and I am going to do the creative part of the writing, editing, revising, and I'm going to do the distribution of finding the right platform to put the book on, make sure that if somebody wants to buy it, it is delivered to them appropriately, and really wearing all the publishing hats. So thinking about somebody like Stephen King. He does the writing, he does some promotion. He doesn't really need to promote anymore because he's Stephen King. But his publisher does all the work of making the book a book, like a physical book or an ebook file. When you're self-publishing, you're doing all the work yourself. Now, you can outsource it, but you're still the project manager. So say you're outsourcing to a cover designer, you're outsourcing to an editor. Okay, that's great. You still have to manage the timeline and follow-ups and things like that. So that's what it means to self-publish. I would start first with who it's not good for. So if somebody wants a side hustle or they can start making money tomorrow, maybe even like next month, this maybe isn't for you. Because when you think about it, writing a book and writing a book that you are proud to put your name on takes time and it takes revisions and it takes edits. And so I'd say if you are somebody who's always wanted to write a book and hey, this is maybe a path for me to start to test out my chops. Can I write a full-length book? Self-publishing can be a great way to go. I think if you already have a content business where you have a blog, you have a podcast, you have things you're already saying, and you say, well, some people like to learn from listening to my podcast and some like to learn from reading books. Hey, I have all this content. I have all my scripts. I can repurpose those into a book. I think that person is going to have an easier time getting the book across the finish line and starting to see revenue faster than somebody starting from, my dream is to write this next huge book series, fantasy series, romance series. I have no followers. You know, that person, that's a passion project that will one day, hopefully, net them something. But just having different expectations based on where you are audience-wise, where you are experience-wise. But yeah, if you need money tomorrow, like this isn't going to get you money tomorrow.
It's not a quick moneymaker. You mean they're lying to me on social media when they're all like,
yes,
do this, earn 6 figures a month?
Yes, they're lying or they're exaggerating.
I actually don't know anybody saying you could earn 6 figures a month tomorrow from writing a book.
That's true. 5 figures. 5 figures.
There's this new trend.
Oh, no.
Called low content books or notebooks. And so you can do notebooks or what's considered a low content book, right? You probably just have the names of each of the 12 months, things like that. And you can produce that. And you could theoretically create this and put it up on Amazon KDP the next day or that same day and start selling. The downside is everybody and their brother can make a notebook. So what's going to make your notebook special? And when you have the same quality as everybody else using print on demand, it's like, okay, well, what are the design features? Why should somebody buy your notebook? So yes, you can do it quickly, but then there's a lot of hustling of ads and things like that. So how much are you really netting after all that? But yes, I have seen what kind of Joel refers to as the kind of bombastic, you can write a bestseller in 30 days. And like, I bet it's not going to stay on the bestseller list after that first day.
Right.
Because you wrote it in 30 days.
And see, that's a big distinction because when you first release your book, you can give it away for free for 5 days. Amazon allows you to do that. And every book can be a bestseller in those 5 days if you pick the right category. And so that is one of the reasons, like, so my book, The No Spend Challenge Guide, is a bestseller on Amazon and consistently is a bestseller, but that means very little because everybody else can say they're a bestseller because they took a screenshot in the first 5 days of release. So what's more important than anything like bestseller or whatever is, I think, the money that you make from it on a consistent basis. But that's what I love about self-publishing is that having a book allows you to go onto podcasts more easily or to get onto like blogs or YouTube and all these other things and vice versa. If you're a content creator, just like you said, MK, it allows you to create content. And sometimes the biggest struggle for a content creator is, what do I put out there? So if your end goal is to write a book, that's exactly what I did with the No Spend Challenge Guide. I was like, what do I write on my blog? I was like, okay, no spend challenges really helped us cut our spending and figure out what we wanted, what we loved spending on. That was literally the tiniest inkling before values-based spending was ever a thing for frugal friends. I wrote this values-based no spend challenge guide based on this. And so I took about 10 to 15 blog posts with this arc of going like, you could read the no spend challenge guide for free on my blog if you went through these, 15, 20 blog posts. But I repurposed them and made them more cohesive for the book and put that out on Amazon with not a ton of extra work because it's work I was already doing. And I didn't need a big audience, didn't have an audience at all at that time. And Amazon had the audience. It just took like some optimization to tap into the right audience there. So it was this beautiful thing, like I had the content, but not the audience. And I was able to get that audience from Amazon. So I love that about self-publishing. How do you feel about in the nonfiction versus fiction space for that, since you straddle both?
It depends. It really depends. So I would say for the fiction space, there are certain fiction genres that self-publishing, they can be super successful, super lucrative. And so I really nerd out on the stats, right? So the average American reads 12 books a year. That's 1 book a month. But that's the average. There are people way on the other end who are like, I haven't picked up a book since I graduated high school. And then there's people on the other end who are reading a book a week. And those people read romance. And that genre can do gangbusters with self-publishing because you have these readers who like, every week I need a new book and I want it in this specific trope. So please give me more books. And so they can do really well. Science fiction series, fantasy series can do really well on the fiction side. And I keep emphasizing series because your first book, if you have no followers, you are hustling. You are on social media, you're talking about it, you're making other author friends, you're connecting. Okay, great, people read the first one. Oh, the second book's coming out. The third book's coming out. The series is complete. And so there's lots of strategies to do that. And that's where serial readers, like voracious readers, love series because they're like, I already like it. I know the characters. Boom. Give me number 2. Give me number 3. So that can be very profitable. But say you're listening to this, you're like, okay, but in my heart, I don't want to write a nonfiction book. I don't feel like I'm an expert. I don't want to write any of those genres or a series. In my heart, I want to write this like deeply literary, beautiful, coming of age story. If that's the book in your heart, that's awesome. If you want to self-publish it, awesome. But the way that people who read those types of books find books may not be through self-publishing indie author promotional channels. And so sometimes it's going back and saying, what's the best for this book? And so I think people come at this 2 ways. One is, I've heard I can make money self-publishing. I've always been interested in books. I like to read. I'll write a book. And then there's people who come from this who are like, no, my burning passion is writing. And so for the people who are love to write for the sake of writing and want to write a novel, they can self-publish. They can say, yeah, I did it. Like I proved to myself, I can do it. I can get it done. I think they're going to have more anxiety when things maybe don't go well, or the first day it's maybe not a huge success and it's like, oh, I have to keep marketing this book forever, versus the person who's like, well, I tried this and I made something and that was kind of cool and let me like optimize it and gamify it. And so I think if you're somebody who's kind of in the middle, I love to write, I love to be creative, but I also like to gamify things. I think that's the sweet spot with fiction self-publishing, where you're probably going to enjoy it a bit more. You're still going to feel like I'm creating something, I'm growing in my writing craft, but I'm also learning how to optimize for ads and keywords, and that's kind of cool too. So if you're kind of in that middle, you're probably going to find it much more enjoyable than if you're kind of on either side.
So for the person who is thinking, yeah, I think I want to write a book, I think self-publishing is going to be the best route for me, where should they start? What is step 1 for them?
I'd say step 1 with self-publishing is writing the book. So with traditional publishing, sometimes you're writing the book first, sometimes you're writing a proposal or pitch. With self-publishing, the first things first, you have to have a book. And that is, I always say that's the hardest part. I say that's the first 24 miles of the marathon, is writing the book. And there will be days when you want to write the book and I can't put words together. And so those are the days that it's really good to start doing some book homework research, is what I call it. Okay, so I know I want my book to be on Amazon.com. How do I get it to Amazon.com? I can go through a platform that Amazon offers where I can publish directly. I can go through other websites that are called aggregators that are really meant to be author first and forward, and they can get my book to Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Apple and Google and bookshop.org and all these other places. And so really starting to understand what is the goal for the book, and therefore what options will help me succeed with that goal. If your goal is to go to barnesandnoble.com and see your book there because you grew up nerding out going to Barnes & Noble, okay, well, Amazon can't get you there because Amazon and Barnes & Noble don't like each other because one is cannibalizing the other's business. So figuring that out, or if your goal is, you know what, proof of concept, I just want it out there. I want to say I'm done. I want the path of least resistance. Amazon KDP, which stands for Kindle Direct Publishing, super easy, gets you to Amazon.com and all the associated like .co.uk, .ca, .au, all the other websites as well. You probably want to decide, do I want this to be a print book? Do I want it to be an ebook? Do I want an audiobook? So there's a lot of different decisions to make as an author. And there will be times when you're creatively sapped, or maybe an editor's looking at your book for revisions and you're like, okay, this is my time to decide what is my plan. And I think it's really important, especially for new self-publishing authors, to have a plan that makes sense for them, for their workload they want to take on, their goal for their book, for their actual book, and not get swayed by, this is how you make 6 figures in one day on Amazon, because that person has a very different goal for their book. And so I see this happen all the time with newbie authors. They had a plan, they loved it, they were all for it. They started to like spend money based on that plan. They said, well, I listened to this one podcast and this person said I should only publish on this one day. And that day passed and that was last week. So I have to wait a whole year to release my book again because that was the best day to release books. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So don't do that. Don't just listen to one person. And I like to say, it's like when you're taking a test in high school, don't look at somebody else's paper. Look at your paper. Focus on what you need to do for your book, because there are books for everybody out there to read. There are books for everybody out there to write, and each are going to be strategically a little different. So starting the research of what do I want? How do I make it happen is a great starting place.
Yeah, you're also mentioning, and I know I only asked you for the first step, and you did give me like steps 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
And so now, that's perfect, because now I'm thinking, okay, well, what's 4 and 5? You're mentioning editors and some of these different people that might be involved in the self-publishing process. How might someone find those additional supports that they would need, even though they're primarily doing this thing on their own?
So there's a couple routes. And I would say for the person who is being uber frugal, you can easily go into authors, writers groups and meet up with people to be critique partners. So that is where 2 authors or maybe 3 or 4 in a group together, and they're exchanging chapters, they're exchanging entire books. And that other person's saying like, hey, you lost me here. Or, hey, I really don't understand why this character suddenly just did like a 180 and did this. And helping each other, not just from a grammatical point of view, but from a story structure point of view. There's really great websites like Readsy where you can find professional editors and things of that nature if you want to invest in that, if you have the money to invest in it. I always think you're going to get what you pay for, right? When you get the free review from a friend, they're probably going to take their time. You know, maybe something comes up, you don't hear back from them. Maybe you don't feel like it's as thorough a review as if you had paid for it. So keeping that budget in mind for what you want to invest in the book, you can find people who can help at low to no cost. You can find people who can help at a reasonable cost. There are price points for everybody on Readsy. If you don't already know somebody and they've been vetted to say, hey, based on their experience, based on your word count and your page count, this is how much it would cost. So Readsy is a really great marketplace to start at. That's specifically for authors. I know a lot of people also like to use Fiverr. I like Readsy just because it's like specific. Fiverr, you can find jobs for anything, but I like Readsy because it's specific for authors.
Yeah, I found an editor on Upwork once. I used a friend for my 2 favorite books. But yeah, it's hard to find a good editor, but it is so integral. That's why when you find one, you stick with them and you pay them whatever they ask. Is what I have found. So cool. Okay, so yes, first we write the book. That's the first thing. I would say also maybe if you do have an audience at any point, and we did this when we were kind of trying to figure out what our traditionally published book would be, just asking your existing audience, no matter how small it is, has anything I've ever written impacted you? Or like, what is one thing that I have like said or recorded or anything? What stands out the most? What's something that you remember or that you loved the most? Because that's going to give you a really good starting point for what the book should be about. Because we thought we wanted to go one way with our traditional book. And then everyone kept saying values-based spending. And we're like, well, yeah, that is whenever we go on another podcast, that's all they ask us about. So that's what people need. That's where the hole in the market is that we really fill well. The market doesn't need another standard personal finance book. That's not what people come to us for. So I mean, there's a line you have to straddle between what do people remember from what you said and what do you want to talk about for the next 2 to 3 years, because it doesn't stop at writing the book. Like you're going to be marketing it for the next 2 to 3 years
or longer, hopefully.
Hopefully. So yeah, it is a fine line. Back to the topic of editors. Self-publishing is a very affordable side hustle. You really could do it, and people do it, for absolutely free. No money spent. But if you want to make money, it does behoove you to invest some money. So what are the most important things people should be investing in? And what are some of the things that they can skip on paying for?
So I would say your cover art is very important. That is the face of your book. People do judge books by their cover. That's why it's a phrase. So the cover should look good. It should look well done. It should look professional. I made the mistake on one of my early books of doing it myself. And you know what? It looked like it was DIY. It didn't look good. Now, I will say to your point, yes, you can do this DIY bootstraps, spend nothing in money, spend everything in time, try to learn all the programs, do it all for free. And the nice thing with self-publishing is you can release a second edition later with a nicer cover, with updated formatting. So I will say that anybody who's listening to this, like, well, this is my dream, and now I feel like I don't have money to invest. You can do that. I say anything with books, like you can fix it on a long enough timeline, enough money, you can fix it. So yeah, I say the cover is very important. I personally am of the mindset of I want my books out as wide as possible. I don't want to be beholden to just Amazon. And that's based on my strategy for my fiction books. And I also use it for my nonfiction books. And so for me, I invested in my ISBNs. I own my ISBN. I did not get the free one from Amazon because if I had, I could only have my book on Amazon. You can't take it with you somewhere else. I couldn't have the library purchase it. Well, some libraries now have an acquisition system through Amazon, but some of them don't. And so I was like, well, if I want to be in the database that libraries purchase from, Overdrive, Hoopla, Biblioteca, Baker and Taylor, all of those, I need to own my ISBN so I can put it multiple places. So that was something that was important for me to invest in when I was still doing my own formatting, asking friends for help with editing. I still paid for my ISBNs and my cover art. And I am super frugal, as Jen can attest. But those are the things I invested in. So I would say, if nothing else, those are the most important. And then from there, editing is very important. And I will say my experience has been, even if maybe the story isn't tight, right? If there's plot holes, if there's things that developmental editing, story editing could have worked out, if those are there, but the grammar's perfect, some readers will be like, it was great. I loved the book. Whereas that same person could get to the final page and there's a period missing and they'll be like, 1 star. There was one typo and I'm not going to tell you where it is.
I was just going to say that. The 1-star reviews that I see on self-published books are grammar. And those 1-star reviews will kill the business of that book. Mm-hmm. Everything could be great. They got a lot out of it. But if you've got a lot of grammatical stuff going on, someone who would not have reviewed it will give it a 1-star review, which is worse than them just not reviewing it.
Yes. Yes. So I will definitely say, and the great thing is that copy editing or proof editing where you're looking for grammatical errors is less expensive than story and developmental editing. So I would say as you're working up the task of, okay, I have a bit more to invest in this book, or I have a bit more to invest, definitely go with ISBN, cover, copy editing, proofreading, and then the developmental editing. I haven't mentioned formatting for the books. I bootstrapped a lot of my formatting. And this is where it goes from the Google Doc or the Word doc you wrote it in to an actual clickable eBook file or a printed PDF that you will submit to the printer. And some books, you would kind of expect in a fantasy book that there'd be little added details and maybe there's a map of the land, fictional place, I don't know, in the fantasy book. So formatting is much more important. Whereas in a nonfiction book, unless you have a lot of graphs and charts, it's mostly text. You may not need to invest as much in formatting. And again, this always goes back to well, it depends on your book. It depends on your goals. It really does. I know people who, they put out their first book. They didn't spend a dime. They went crazy doing everything themselves. They learned a lot. And the next book, they said, I'm going to invest a little bit here and there to go easier the next time. I know somebody who for her first book went $3,000 into debt because she paid for every little thing. And she was I want to try this marketing thing. I want to try this marketing thing. And a lot of them didn't have the ROI. And so now she's pinning all her hopes on the rest of the series to just get back to even. So you can spend a lot really quickly. And that's where I do suggest, like I mentioned, joining writers groups on Facebook or elsewhere. You can find critique partners. You can also ask hey, I just got quoted this price for cover. Is that a good deal? Is that a bad deal? Has anybody worked with this cover artist before? Will they actually get me what they're saying on time? I find other authors are very willing to help each other and talk to each other and share tips or share this worked, this didn't work. So always ask around before you just click buy on anything. Yeah.
Who do you recommend for where to find a cover artist?
I like to work with 2 different teams for covers. One is 100 covers. And it started because they started just doing ebook covers for $100, which is a ridiculously reasonable price. they definitely have self-publishing prices. So 100 covers is great. And now they've expanded. They'll do the ebook, the print, the audiobook, little social media extras, and you can go up in the packages with that, which is really nice. And then I also like to work with formatted books. So they did all my book formatting starting a couple years ago, and now they offer covers as well. So they're both great teams. They both have really affordable pricing, whereas there are one-off sites that I know people have worked with to get their cover done. But I like these teams because they know the self-publishing platforms. So every time I've gotten a file from them, cover, interiors, otherwise, like I've never had an issue with an upload, which is so nice.
Yeah.
So nice.
I have worked with both of those as well. 100 Covers did all of my covers until the second edition of No Spend, and then Formatted Books did the formatting for the second edition of No Spend. So, and very, very reasonable pricing. No reason not to go with them, honestly.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry, and literally billions of dollars are being invested. So, buckle up. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So, how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing. And of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/strategic. That's oracle.com/strategic. oracle.com/strategic.
We know New Year's resolutions often don't stick. In fact, on average, they last around 30 days. So if saving money is on your 2024 resolution list, here's a foolproof way to stick to yours.
Switch your phone provider to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for $15 a month.
For those of you paying close to $40 a month for just one phone line, this means a savings of $300 over the course of the year. We especially like Mint because all plans come with unlimited talk and text and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network.
To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/frugal. That's mintmobile.com/frugal. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/frugal. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. It's so helpful to know the background of all of this. Somebody could say, yes, I can write. That's fine. I know how to literally type in a document on my computer. But if you're going to go the self-publishing route, you're kind of like GCing your own project here. And okay, what is some of the back end stuff that I'm going to need to know about? And you've laid it out so well. And you've helped us to dispel the myth of making 5 figures monthly on even just a digital product, which is great. Thanks for dispelling those dreams. But also, can you thread the needle here for us that, okay, we're not going to overnight be multimillionaires, but there can be some money made here in the self-publishing world. I know that it's really hard to give hard figures, so I'm not asking you for that, but a general sense of helping us to set expectations on what kind of return on investment we could see with self-publishing. How long does it typically take to start making money? If it's not going to happen in a month, like how long then? What do you have to say about that?
Well, a few things. So I will say, even if you have no dedicated built audience for your fiction or nonfiction book, nobody knows who you are, but you got some family, right? They're going to pity buy your book, right? They're going to buy it. It's going to mess up the algorithm because your uncle really likes to read crime thrillers, but you just wrote romance and now Amazon doesn't know what to recommend, but he bought it, right? Because he cares, right? Your uncle bought it because he cares. So you will see on Amazon KDP right away, hey, you got a sale. You don't get paid for 60 days. So even if you're the wild magical unicorn, you post it, it goes viral, you still don't actually get paid for 60 days. So I would say if there's anything you are putting maybe on a credit card or something like that for the cover and things like that, know you're probably going to have to be paying that credit card off before that bill's going to come due before you ever get paid, because it takes 60 days for Amazon to pay out. And some of the other platforms take up to 90 days. So that's how long it takes you to actually see the money hit your bank account, whether it's 10 cents, whether it's $10, $1,000, whatever. As far as true income coming in, like you've paid off the book, that's always a really fun moment where you're like, I'm officially no longer in the red on this book. Celebrate that moment as an author, because you're like, sweet, everything else is gravy. There is a common, it's a Facebook group, but it kind of came off of this idea of 20 books to 50K. And so this idea is that when you write 20 books, ideally in the same genre, not necessarily the same series, but kind of for the same audience, that you could be generating up to 50K a year, which is a salary. Like, it's definitely not nothing, but 20 books, that's a lot of work.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And it kind of grows exponentially. So it's not this linear, like, oh, I'm going to make X amount with each book. It's kind of slow. And then you're going to pick up that groundswell. And a lot of that's going to come from people really like the new stuff you're putting out. More people are talking about it. They go back to read the old stuff. Having that big backlog can help. And so that's where I said in the beginning, like, if you want to make money tomorrow, this isn't for you. This is going to be years of invested time. And hopefully with each book you put out, you're enjoying the process more. You do have a more dedicated readership. You feel like your craft as a writer is growing. It seems to be true definitely on the fiction side. I see a lot of people talk about that. As far as nonfiction, I don't know many nonfiction authors who write 20 books. I guess the chicken soup people for the soul.
I mean, yeah, I don't know how many people could write 20 books in their genre of nonfiction.
Yeah, it seems like 5 would be a max.
Yeah.
You've kind of given them your whole brain at that point.
But for a nonfiction author, they probably have other lines to their business where, okay, you're producing content there. They probably have a podcast in these day and age. They probably have a blog. They probably have other things where that book income is going to be one pillar, whereas the fiction novelist that might be it. So keep writing.
Yeah. And I find a lot of nonfiction, the book is maybe a loss leader. It's something they can give away for free, even to get people on their newsletter, to get people into paid consulting, coaching courses, stuff like that. But it is great. It is a lot easier as somebody who's unknown, who's just starting out, to get onto people's radars if you have a book that has some 5-star reviews on it. Because again, anybody can put a book onto Amazon. But if your book has some 5-star reviews, then that's when people start to, I think, take you serious. That's what I thought. Like, I made it. I think that was my one goal when I published, was to get 30 5-star reviews. And so that was my whole, when I published, my whole thing was like, okay, you are my advanced readers, and the first 10 people to review. And I didn't say first people to give me a 5-star review, because that's against terms of services. But
yes,
the first 10 people to give a rating and review of the book will get a drawing for an Amazon gift card. So yeah, I gave an incentive to my early readers to review, just to get those ratings and reviews quickly and in quantity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ratings and reviews are the lifeblood for authors. So I would definitely say, I know a lot of people do talk about Amazon advertising. You can advertise your book. I think it's better if you have more reviews before you start advertising. Mm-hmm. Some people say, no, day one, when you have no reviews, people are like, oh, it's okay, there's no reviews. It literally came out today. Advertise. I think in my experience, I have not seen them perform as well when they didn't have a lot of reviews already on there. But it's kind of like, it's a chicken and egg thing. Another thing, if whoever is listening, whether you want to write a book or not, go and leave a rating or review. You will make that author's day. They will be doing the happiest dance ever, even if it's just the rating, even if you don't have time to write the review. It means a lot to them. Don't tag them in a negative review. That's going to ruin their day. But leave a review. It's social proof. And even if you didn't love it, but you say, I didn't love it, but I could see how somebody who also enjoys XYZ would like this book, that's helpful to the next person who's going to read that.
Very true.
Same with the podcasts.
Yeah, podcasts need them too. They need the good ones.
Makes our day.
It does. You know what else makes our day? And you can leave us a good review for.
Yeah. The Bill of the Week.
That's right. It's time for the best minute of your entire week. Maybe a baby was born and his name is William. Maybe you paid off your mortgage. Maybe your car died and you're happy to not have to pay that bill anymore. Duck bills, Buffalo Bills, Bill Clinton. This is the Bill of the Week.
MK, every week we invite our listeners and or guests to give us their bill for the week. And we would love to hear yours.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about this a lot. Because I remember early days of the podcast, when y'all didn't have guests yet, I called in and I was like, it should be Bills, Bills, Bills by Destiny's Child.
When we
Yes, I do remember that one. That was you. Awesome.
And it's the reason we had to do a disclosure on the actual bill recording page to not sing full
sorry.
songs.
Oh, did I get you demonetized? I'm so sorry. Well, then I will not make that the bill of the week again. Because I was like, it's a classic. Like, it's Destiny's Child.
We just can't sing it. Like, we just can't, sing the copyrighted material at past a certain time.
I was doing spoken word poetry.
See, now, is that true? Isn't there, however SNL gets away with stuff? Like, parody law.
Unless it's a parody.
Oh, I didn't make a parody. I was just doing spoken word poetry of...
I don't know how you would make that
when
parody.
I'm doing it, it's a parody, that's for sure.
Anywho, didn't realize it got you into that much trouble, so I won't make that my bill of the week.
No trouble. It's just that we didn't realize that was a thing that would happen.
Okay, well, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Or could happen.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that one again, but I didn't want to copycat myself, so I picked Bill Nye, the science guy. He's a great Bill.
Heck
He's a great Bill.
Yes.
Helped a lot of people.
He is a great
Oh my gosh.
Bill.
And definitely won't need a legal disclosure for that one. He's a treasure.
Helped us learn about the water cycle.
Yes.
Just learn about science. It's great.
Yes.
I love Bill Nye. I would watch him after school on the telly, the old tube, and eat goldfish. It was my after school snack. Goldfish and Bill Nye. We love Bills that are Bill.
Wow.
People named Bill. Yep.
I watched Power Rangers after school.
Wow.
Which
I wasn't
color were
allowed
you?
to watch Power Rangers
That makes sense.
or Rugrats.
Were you allowed to read Harry Potter?
I don't even know if it was out yet. I feel like I was too old
Yes,
to
it was. Jill,
Was it?
I'm 4 months older than you, and the first Harry Potter book came out when I was in 5th grade.
Okay, then I'll go with option B. It was never on my radar to want to read it, so I don't know.
Oh, man.
Okay, we digress. Thanks, MK, for your bill. If you all listening want to save us from our misery over here and leave your bill because you've got something better to say than we do, that'd be awesome. We believe you. And if your name is Bill, you know the drill. You know what to do. frugalfriendspodcast.com/bill. We're waiting for you.
Hi, I'm Martine Hackett, and I'm hosting the second season of Untold Stories, Life with a Severe Autoimmune Condition, a production from Ruby Studio in partnership with Argenix, sharing real stories of MG, CIDP, and other autoimmune conditions. We hope to share inspiration and educate the larger community about these severe and often overlooked conditions.
I can't fix this. I can't cure this. And, I'll take my treatment day by day, but I want to try to be engaged, be involved, or be as helpful as I feel I can with the limitations I have of working full time to children. So I participate in market research to provide information to hopefully benefit others, because it's a small margin of people that have the myasthenia, but then to get pregnant, it's an even more narrow margin. And you can't never have too much information as an epidemiologist.
Yeah, exactly right. Listen to Untold Stories, Life with a Severe Autoimmune Condition on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Cindy Crawford, and I'm the founder of Meaningful Beauty. When Dr. Sabah and I decided to do a skincare line together, he said to me, we are going to give women meaningful beauty. And I said, that's exactly right. We want to give women meaningful beauty, which means each and every product is meaningful. It has a reason to exist. It's efficacious. You're going to get results. And then you just go out and live your life.
Meaningful Beauty. Confidence is beautiful. Learn more at meaningfulbeauty.com.
And now it's time for the lightning round.
There was a Harry Potter character named Bill, right?
Yeah, Bill Weasley.
That's okay. That's what I was thinking. I didn't read the full series, full disclosure.
Oh, yeah, Jen, you don't remember?
I did remember.
He
Jill,
was in the
that's what I said.
Schmiggins camp school.
This is as vulnerable as you need to get right now, Jill.
We're going to get a 1-star review for that.
You hit your vulnerability limit. You didn't even try. All right. So for the lightning round, we will all answer this question. What's a topic or genre you've never written on, but maybe would like to in the future? Maybe. Sky's the limit, MK?
So I've been thinking about this because I have a toddler. I'm a stressed mom, okay? I like to read books that are in my genre, like dark, twisty, sci-fi, speculative fiction. But some days I just want to read like a cute little rom-com. They meet in a cute little town. Will they hold hands? I don't know. Let's find out. All right? And so I think it could be fun one day to maybe write like a cute little Hallmarky rom-com. It's just cute and it's happy, and you know you're gonna get a happy ending. Okay? Like they're gonna be together, maybe a little kiss. You don't know. You gotta read, you gotta find out. So yeah, I think that's something I might do. I mean, obviously, like it's a rom-com.
It's a cute rom-com. If it's anything else, then it's not a cute rom-com.
No, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, could my dark and twisty heart do it? I don't know, but maybe one day I'll find out.
If you listen to our book club episode from a few weeks ago, you know that I'm in my Taylor Jenkins Reid era. And I love her because they're love stories, but they're like not the love story isn't the main character. It's the side piece. And you kind of know what's going to happen in then, but then you kind of don't. Okay. So like sometimes you think you know and it's right, but then sometimes it's not. She throws you for a loop.
MK, you could do a like choose your own adventure where all of the dark, twisty things that you wanted to do could be done if you go in this direction after page whatever, 300.
I've thought about
or
that.
You finish it off with the cute rom-com. I don't know.
That's a lot before you get to choose.
Like, do they end up like, do they end up just ignoring each other or getting into a fight, not communicating and never getting together?
Yes.
Or do you get a happy ending? I don't know.
I kind of like that. Like all the different ways it could have gone.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I know Jill will buy that book.
I
don't know if anybody else will, but I know Jill will.
I'd read both endings.
Okay. Well, that's good because
you have to. You'd have to. That's cute. Rom-coms. For me, actually, I'm going to go off in left field. And I talk a lot about reading Taylor Jenkins Reid, but actually, I think one day maybe I would like to write a Christian nonfiction. Hold up. Before anybody says anything. I just feel like values-based spending has a lot of correlations with living like a faith-based life. And I feel like I could write something with my same passion, like in my other passion. So like maybe one day down the road when I'm on my deathbed and I don't have to hear what happens to the book.
Here's everything I learned throughout my life. Come, children. Yeah. Listen in.
Yeah, I don't want to know what happens to the book after that one gets written.
Live the radical middle with your beliefs. This is how you talk in my mind as an elderly person.
When you're on your deathbed, I mean.
Yeah. Thank you, Jill. All right. You?
Sports, fiction. I'm kidding.
Surprisingly lucrative genre.
So funny.
I didn't know because you dressed so chaotically when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. I didn't expect that. And so you said that and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a side of Jill she is hiding and it's coming out like a tiny bit at a time. Like, it's like your true self, you're too afraid to be true to.
That's mostly a joke. I have a real answer. But while we're on this topic, there is a side idea, and it's not necessarily for writing a book. It's more of maybe a social media account or a very, very short podcast or vlog. I am notoriously known for like watching athleticism happen and thinking that it's not that difficult. Or like my commentary on sports is like, what's the big deal? What are we looking at here? Jen, you've experienced this.
It's not just sports.
No, I came over to your house to watch what's the gym thing you do that's super intense and you flip tires and stuff? CrossFit. Oh, my word. CrossFit competitions, that's a thing. Like, how good do you exercise? And it's like become its own thing. And I'm like, I don't get it. So people around me who have heard me comment on this, they're like, this is super offensive, but you should probably like, we should elevate that voice. But then they also want to humiliate me in, you know, like a friendly kind of way where then I do these things. Like I also was watching a slam dunk competition with friends and I'm like, I don't get it. Like, can't everyone slam dunk? Like, can't a lot of people slam dunk? Can't you get to the point where you can slam dunk? Especially if you're a professional basketball player. Like, how is this? Like, isn't this happening all the time? And they're like, this is really hard and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I feel like given enough training and time dedicated to this thing, I could slam dunk. And everyone's like, 100% no, you can't. But I feel like, and I feel this way about a lot of things. Like I'll see a tiny vehicle, an electric car, and I think I could pick that up. Like 100%, I could pick it up. I could hang it on my wall. I think I can do these things.
This is Jill's toxic trait. If you ever wondered what her toxic trait is, and it's not just sports or physical athleticism. We were out like at dinner one night and Jill was like, I don't know why it's so hard to tile my house. Somebody else was tiling her house and she's like, I can tile this whole thing in a day. And I was like, And granted, also would like to point out the tile Jill's house is covered in is 24 by 24, 2 by 2 feet.
And I did move it all. Whatever. I digress. But that's this other thing I might pursue someday is like Jill trying to dunk, Jill trying to run the Boston Marathon, Jill trying to, and I know now I will fail at all of it, but it would be kind of comical. What I would actually like to write, this is going to be a complete left turn.
Not just a marathon, but Boston.
No one's going to believe me. Yeah. Is children's books. I would love to write children's books. And now that I've said what I said, no one's going to trust me to like write a book that they would ever trust reading to their children. But I swear I have it in me.
You do. I
think that children's books are so adorable and endearing and they simplify complicated concepts. And I love it. And I'd love to do that someday.
That I do believe you can do.
Thanks, Jen. That's something you could handle.
Yeah, you are right in thinking
50 words, done.
It took us 337 episodes, but we finally figured out what your toxic trait is.
Thinking I can do too much.
Yeah, thinking you can easily
mostly
do
related to sports.
Other things that people train their entire lives for. Speaking of doing hard things that people train their entire lives for, MK, you have a fantastic YouTube channel that kind of fills in all the gaps that we left in this episode. For anybody interested in self-publishing, can you tell us where to find all that and any other wisdom you have to impart?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm everywhere online as at the number one, MK Williams. I used to say it because I was the only one. And then there's a guy from England who's also MK Williams. So if you find an MK Williams online, it looks like a dude, that's him. If it looks like a very feminine, long brunette hair female, that's me. Then you're in the right place. But on YouTube, just search MK Williams, author your ambition. Most of the questions you just have about like, where do I start with self-publishing? Should I go with Amazon KDP? Should I go with something else? What is Amazon KDP? I'm going to pop up. You'll find me. So yeah. And that's what I'm kind of known for in the self-publishing space. A lot of people talk about like strategy and like bigger business concepts. I am down in there with the nitty gritty of like, this is the exact button you push when you get this error message. So I'm there to help. I'm there to help with the things that you know you need to plan. And then I'm there to help in the panic moment when you're just like trying to upload and you've got the brown bag you're like heaving into and like, why won't it work? So,
and trust me, the error message will come up and you will need to know what button to push. Mm-hmm. That is happens. Not even a joke. That's going to happen.
To everybody.
Yeah,
everybody has it.
Yeah. So, MK, thank you so much for coming and talking to us about self-publishing. And definitely, if this is something you want to try out, head to her YouTube. Every question that you have, she will have answered.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if I haven't, then comment and I'll make that video.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thanks, MK.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Wow. I know, Jen, you have self-published your own books, and there's just such camaraderie there with you and MK. But I feel for me, having not gone through that process in the past, so much was answered for me, even making me think, ooh, I should do this. I know we're writing a book together.
This is something that you think you could do better than us?
No.
Is that what
I
you're
never
saying?
said better. Here's the thing. I never said better. I can't dunk better. I can't run better. I just think I could run. Given enough training, I could dunk. And
you said you could qualify for Boston.
No,
which is the hardest marathon to qualify for.
That one I'm actually going to talk realistically and say, like, no, that's not for me. I do not like running. I'm not even going to try. Don't think I could do it. Cycling, on the other hand. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is this was a great episode in my perspective. Having never self-published before, I feel like MK really helped me to understand the process and almost like ignited a desire that I'm sure anyone who even tuned into this episode is like, okay, these are the steps that I need to take. There are people I can hire in the process. So all of that is so helpful. And I love that you can write a book. You could write a book that others could purchase without going with a publisher, like a traditional publisher. You can do it all on your own. And I love that that's available to the common person.
Yeah. And I love that if you got a 5-year plan to get out of your job and you love writing fiction, this is a viable way for you to get out. Like writing 20 books over 5 years is doable. I mean, some people will write a book a month, like if they're just like fast writers. There's definitely, check out the 20 books to 50K group on Facebook. It's a very inclusive, welcoming group, and you can just glean people's wisdom. There are a ton of full-time authors in there that exclusively self-publish on Amazon, and you can get a bunch of tips there. But it is something, it's not going to get you, probably, unless you're like Colleen Hoover, it's not going to get you out of your job in, actually, I take that back. It probably took her longer. Not going to get you out of your job in like a year. It can get you out of there in 5, even if you're Colleen Hoover. So probably nobody gets that reference.
And I have no idea who that is.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Like the guy who wrote The Martian. You remember that movie?
Oh, the movie. Yes.
Yeah. That started, I think, as a blog and then self-published book. Yeah. So you never know where your work could go. So thank you so much for listening. We love reading your kind reviews. Especially love this one from Jordan B., a different voice in finance. I listen to this podcast when I need motivation to stay committed to my budget and financial planning. They have some fun tips and conversation. Jen and Jill encourage people to decide on their own. I respect that. I can listen to a variety of financial advice and take what applies to me to my situation. It's not a competition. There's room for several voices in the finance world, and Jen and Jill are good ones that work quite well for me. Thank you, Jordan.
Such a balanced, logical, kind review. Well done, Jordan. And I respect you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. If you did enjoy this show and you want to leave a review like Jordan B., where it's just giving helpful information on what people might like about the Frugal Friends podcast, that rating and review does help us. It helps other potential new listeners. So we'd love you to do that. That would be so great and so kind of you.
Mm-hmm. And if you've left a rating review already for our show, thank you. And please help another podcaster or author by leaving a rating and review on something that they have written or recorded. It is such a kind gesture. Those ratings and reviews are foundational to creating a business around any piece of content. So yeah, please go do that for somebody.
See you next time.
Frugal Friends is produced by Eric Siriani. Jill, I'd like to read this email that we got from our lawyer this morning.
It sounds so intense.
I know. I already told you about it.
We're reading it out loud to our listeners. Well,
I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a little out of context, but imagine it's a Wednesday morning and you're waking up and you see an email from your lawyer that's titled Frugal Friends Reference. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what money do I owe to you?
For this email.
Basically.
And an invoice for $200.
Yeah, right. And an invoice. But the email she sent was she got a Choose FI newsletter. Choose FI, another great personal finance podcast. And she got their newsletter and it referenced Frugal Friends in a member win. So it wasn't just the podcast mentioning us. It was them featuring a win. And it has to do with the Side Hustle series. So they said, to quote part of this, the short version of how this came to be is that while I was a longtime FI enthusiast, I stumbled upon a Frugal Friends episode that led me to Talent Stacker, which led me to Choose FI. The enthusiasm we got from listening to Choose FI helped fuel the pivot in her career, which I'm sure is the person's partner. But we did our Frugal Side Hustle series back in January of this year was Salesforce with Bradley Rice of Talent Stacker. So that Frugal Side Hustle series was the catalyst that led somebody to change her career.
Wow.
Mind blown.
Boom. That's the kind of lawyer email you want to receive.
That's the kind of lawyer you want, the one who's going to see your name somewhere and send it to you because it's nice to see yourself mentioned somewhere.
We've got a great community, even amongst the lawyer we employ. I mean, not like full-time. She's not our employee. We don't run into that many legal qualms.
We don't have a lawyer on staff at Frugal Friends. Wow.
Could you imagine, though? I mean, I could see it being necessary between you and I, the things we say.
We have
live on the mic.
Us, Goldie, and our lawyer.
Because we refuse to change our ways.
Because we refuse to comply anywhere, and we get sued all the time.
I refuse to back down from thinking that I could pick up an electric vehicle and hang it on my wall.
CrossFit has sued her. The Boston Marathon has sued her. The Eagles.
That's just bragging rights. They wish.
Oh my gosh, when you can get sued by the Philadelphia Eagles, you have to be so obnoxious.
No, I think it would be like not being obnoxious enough.
Oh,
would be.
Right. You didn't climb up enough light poles that you said you would. You said you could climb up a light pole because you saw everybody else doing it. And
I do think I could. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think I could do that. Assuming it's not greased up like they did at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
If it's not greased up, I could climb a light pole.
Can't wait to see that one day. We'll video it for all of you. Promise.
Yes.
And the litigation that ensues after.
Yeah.
With the best all-inclusive vacation deals to Mexico and the Caribbean, booking your getaway with Cheap Caribbean Vacations means you have more freedom to do your deal. Whether you want to enjoy snorkeling, endless margaritas, and more, or simply soak up the sun and sand in a tropical paradise, Cheap Caribbean Vacations has your deal for that. Plan and book the exact getaway you want at exactly the right price for you by using our exclusive Budget Beach Finder, or find a featured all-inclusive package to Paradisus by Malia Hotels, and do your deal at cheapcaribbean.com.
Bring home Napoleon.
Destiny has brought me here.
The action epic from acclaimed director Ridley Scott.
What is your name?
Napoleon. You are the greatest leader in the history of the world.
Witness the rise.
You are nothing without me.
Of the legend. Starring Academy Award winner Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby.
I'm the first to admit when I make a mistake. I simply never do.
Napoleon. Buy or rent on digital now. Rated R.